part of the show where there was a drag king character. And when I saw the drag king character, there was just like this awakening in me. That was like, I have never seen anything like that. That is so cool. Like, I don't know. It just really like stuck with me.
Identified. I mean, you felt, yeah.
Yeah, I think I identified, but also I desired. It was a lot. And so when I saw that, like, oh, become a king workshop, but that was the memory that came back to me, and I was like, yes, that's what I want to, like, it'd be fun to explore, and either way, I'm gonna be around other queer people, and that's gonna be great. And one day, so like, per usual, he was picking on me about something around the house and yelling at me from across the room. And I felt myself like freezing up, because this is also like a big problem we had. If like he was yelling, I was freezing up. He would get upset that I'm freezing up, and I don't know what do you do.
Escalate. Yeah.
At that point. So I was like, okay, I'm freezing up. I'm really scared. And so I said, like, hey, I'm feeling really scared right now. Can you just tell me that you can see that I'm feeling scared? Just say, okay, I see that you're feeling scared. And he said, like, I don't know why we're talking about your emotions right now. This is not about your, like this is not about your feelings. Like, you didn't clean this thing, whatever. And I was like, wow, like what Teal taught me about like that my feelings are like important. So it's I've never brought it up like this, but now that I've brought it up, it made me realize for the past 4 years, my feelings were never important in this relationship. I just never saw it that way. So.
Hi, I'm Sharon Landon, and welcome to my show, Old Asian Lady. Today, my guest is Tâilé. They are an entrepreneur and a performance artist. So thank you, Tâilé, for coming in to speak with me today.
Thank you so much for inviting me to your show, Sharon.
Sure. Well, talking about shows, I really have to talk about how I enjoyed your show. Was it Saturday night?
Yeah. Saturday night.
Yeah. That was really cool. How long? It was called Sin.
Yes.
And how long did you guys work on that, by the way?
Oh, well, I didn't organize a show. My friend and King Pretty Harry organized a show maybe a month plus ago.
Oh, okay.
And just invited me to perform. So
all right.
He did all of the organizing and hosting, and I just showed up with my song and number.
Right, because you were the one of the 7 sins.
I was the sin of envy.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't find my glasses this morning, and I decided to just wear the contacts that I wore for the show. That's why I look like I have weird green eyes.
Well, they're not, weird for people that you didn't say, because people would think you just
outing myself for entertainment. Yeah.
Okay, so you were born here in Taiwan.
Yes.
And you've got an American mom and a Taiwanese dad.
Yes.
And so with that upbringing, do you consider yourself Taiwanese since you've lived here mostly, or American, or how do you?
I would say I mostly consider myself Taiwanese. But when I feel like when I'm like being sort of intercultural, sort of these differences come out in comparison with other people. So when I'm with a lot of Taiwanese people, that's my defining feature, is that I'm kind of American.
Right.
But then when I'm in America, I feel like my defining feature is I'm mixed race and a little bit of Asian. Yeah. But I think internally, largely my identity is Taiwanese, except though now that I'm more like out of school and things, I find that in my circles there are a lot of foreign people from like everywhere around the world.
Yeah.
So that also kind of I am Taiwanese, but then also in the foreign community.
Yeah, you're like a global type of person.
I guess so.
Not necessarily only American, maybe just an international.
Yeah. So I definitely am different from Taiwanese people in a lot of ways, but everybody's different in their own way too.
Right. Because if you were in Hawaii, of course, totally, it would be fitting in because there's a lot. Hawaii has a lot of mixed Asian, Caucasian kids, and they're really special. But this time, when you went back to the States, did you feel that people were seeing you as Asian or Caucasian? Because well, one of our other friends, he's also mixed, but he feels like when he's in Taiwan, he's Caucasian, but because he's got that little Asian kind of tilt to his eyes, and even though his hair is light, people still see him as Asian over there. So it's kind of a weird dynamic in terms of identity and stuff.
I do feel like, and this sentiment I've shared before, and like other mixed kids have the same sort of feeling as when I'm like in a lineup, like in a school photograph with all the Taiwanese kids, I'm the white kid.
Right.
But then when I'm among a bunch of white people, I look kind of more like the Asian one.
Yeah. So it is. But you're at this point in time, because you're 26 now, are you pretty comfortable being fluid going across that? Yeah, it doesn't make a big deal.
Yeah, I think so. Because recently when I went to the States, it was in New York, and New York is so diverse anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like nobody really bat an eye at what I am. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's true. Now, your sister's living in New York, but have you ever thought about going to live in the States, or do you really prefer Taiwan as your home and this is where you're going to stay? I mean, at this point in time.
When I was in last year of my high school, kids here cram so much, and I felt, I think, very disillusioned with the education system here, and I had this sort of fantasy about how life could be so much better if I was living in the US, maybe if I could be studying film or going to whatever. And then my sister had already gone to New York, so I think I had this sort of inflated imagination of how cool it would be to be there. And of course, always look up to my older sister.
Yeah.
But then I didn't get accepted to NYU. And then I kind of realized that I feel very comfortable here, and there's a lot that I can do here. And I think especially having like a more international perspective, I also have an idea of what I can share with people here that I feel like might get lost in other places because already so many people are doing a bunch of interesting things everywhere else. I don't know if that's but I think just because that's not really my place, and this is my place, but I can see a bigger picture and I can share that with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you are, as we mentioned, bicultural or biracial, do you feel that it helps in terms of your perception of the world because you're dealing with people from all different nationalities and Taiwanese as well?
I do think that there are some Taiwanese people here who can be limited in their view of the world, or can be very two-dimensional. Of course, things have kind of changed over the last few years, but it used to be obviously America is great. Why wouldn't you want to go to America? Why would you want to be here? There's a kind of that can be some of that sentiment sometimes, or that's more limited. Not for everybody, of course, but I think a lot of it I think also has to do with the internet and being able to use the internet in English.
Well, that's true.
Which actually took me I was, I think, until in high school where I realized that being able to use the internet in English gave me such a different worldview. Because I realized, if I search for a certain thing in Chinese, these are the kind of results I get. And then when I search for something in English, I get so many more results and more diverse results.
Oh yeah, I just never really thought about that.
Because I never really lived outside of Taiwan, really. So a lot of it is through the people I meet, speaking in English, and the internet,
But when you go to the States, when we said, you feel pretty
culture
much...
shock.
Oh, so you do have culture shock over there. Okay, I was just wondering about that. What types of culture shock do you feel like you have?
So most recent time I went was last year, and before that I was much younger, so maybe didn't really have like a sense yet, but this time I went was also because it was New York. It's just all the it's kind of fairly monoracial here, and just so many different types of people in New York. And I think,
was it that was overwhelming, or was just a cityscape? Or
that was also overwhelming, but it was also like, it made me realize the sense of safety that I feel here.
Okay.
That is like unparalleled to, I think, anywhere else. Like I could take a nap on the side of the street.
Yeah,
and wake up fine.
Exactly.
But if I like even sat on the side of the street a little bit in New York, we're like constantly, I'm just like, where's my bag? I'm like,
is it
sure
because
everything is on me? But like, if I'm here, I'm just like, oh, I forgot to zip my bag. My wallet's hanging out. Let me just zip it up.
Yeah, or even at like the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Right? How many people leave their bags there and then go to the counter and order? You couldn't do that in the States and stuff.
No,
I was just thinking about that because I was at Louisa the other day and it was a split floor thing. And we just all left our bags there. Everybody else around us left their bags there and went upstairs to the to the main floor to order food. Yeah, so yeah, in that way it's kind of. But was it because of the you're able to explore things in English now, so you read about all the crimes or a lot of things that happen in the States, or it was just the feeling and the sense that you had when you were there?
It was the sense that I had. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of having to be on alert. And another kind of, I guess, culture shock that I felt was the relationship between strangers is different here versus in the US. Like, here we're kind of, it's like, maybe because the island's so small, we all live very close together and that's just normal. We just pass by each other. But like, it's not really common to make a lot of small talk. Whereas in the US, it's like, the cashier will say like, hi, how are you today? Okay. Like, it's literally not going to affect you how I am today. But that's just the culture.
Yeah.
Or like people make jokes with each other. Each just standing in the line waiting for the cashier. Stuff like that.
That they didn't know, right? It was obvious they were a stranger. Yeah.
And that's just very interesting and exotic to me. So I had this like funny like idea of like, oh, America's such an exotic place. Like for me.
Yeah. Okay. Was there anything that you really enjoyed about being back in the States though this time?
I think for me, it's like I don't think of it as being back in the States because I never lived there.
Oh, that's
to begin
true.
With. Yeah,
that's
a lot of people ask me like, 你常常回美国吗? Like, but I was born here.
Right.
Yeah. So I kind of understand what it means, but it's also a different experience for me. Well, this was not with my family, but because I was actually roaming around a lot on my own.
Okay.
I went to Union Square.
Yeah.
And I like playing chess, and there were a lot of these like chess hustlers at Union Square. And I was like, you paid like you play a game and then maybe give them $10-$20, something like that. And I guess you could make a bet, but I know I'm not good enough to win any of them, so I'm just like, just take my money. And that was like such a cool experience. Yeah, it was this old black guy who was very good at chess, and then like told me his whole life story. And that was being there was also my first time smoking weed legally. So I was like listening to this guy's life story, like playing chess, and just like, what is going on?
Oh, you mean the fact that you had the freedom to be able to do that in the middle of a Union Square?
Yeah.
And just well, and the fact too that this was a stranger guy too that you never met. Of course, you paid him money to, but that you're able to interact and stuff like that quite easily. Because there definitely is a difference in terms of culture and how they communicate, but then and how they treat each other, relationships and stuff. And sometimes in Taiwan, I feel like you need to know each other a little bit more before they share some, more deeper stories. But whereas in the States, sometimes they're just tell a stranger, something
Yeah,
about
but
their
it's
life and
also
stuff.
it's also in some ways it's like the opposite. Like in the U.S., it's kind of like frowned upon to be asking people where they're from.
Oh yeah, that's privacy issues,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But so like you'll tell people's whole life story, but like, okay, but where are you really from?
Yeah.
And then people are like, offensive. But then like people here come up to me and are like, where are you from?
Yeah, yeah. No, the
You're
other
Taiwanese? Okay, but what are you actually?
yeah. I know it's so different because I used to really hate it. Well, I still hate it coming back here because I feel like the privacy thing in the States or Western countries compared to Taiwan is not the same. Because, for example, like I don't know if growing up your mom's American, so she probably have a different way to do it. But oftentimes Asian parents think that your room is their room. So you don't have any privacy. They can go in, clean up your room or see things or whatever like that. But or my family, they can ask me, stuff that if I was in the States, it's too personal to ask, oh, how much money do you make this month? Or what do you do this and this? I feel like the boundaries are a lot different. So how you kind of have to navigate based on your own background culture or what you're used to is kind of a little bit adjusting that needs to be done. But so you had a good time at Union Station. That's good. That was a positive thing. And you lost your money.
Well, no, I was not expecting.
Oh,
But
that's why you let him.
great experience I had in New York, which some of it my family was part of too, was also seeing the drag scene there. Because one of the drag kings that was here for a while moved to New York and is now performing there. And so when I was there, we met up, and then they said like, oh, there's like such and such an open show. It's this show. You can just go and perform. And it was very cool to perform for a completely almost completely unknown audience to me.
Right.
And it being New York and people do like out there things to get attention because everybody's doing stuff.
Right.
And so I really felt like I was able to like push the limit of what I've done before.
Oh, okay. So you actually did perform over there at your twice.
I did 2 performances.
Wow. Did you get paid for it, or you were just doing it for fun?
I was not paid,
Okay.
but I was tipped for it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's cool. So in terms of the culture then of drag, let's say, then you feel that the States, what's the difference between there and here? Because it is here too, but is it just, not as advanced or do wilder things?
Yeah, do much more wild things, pushing the envelope like in a sexual way, in a weird, like grotesque way, just in every way. And there are people who have really, really focused and refined their craft and like seek to do it professionally. Whereas here, it's much more like, for most of us, it's just for fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because how did you actually get into that? Because this is another identity thing that you're putting on. So when did you get into it, and how did you get into it?
Okay, so this has to go back to a few years ago. I was married to a straight guy who was turned out to be pretty emotionally abusive. And after I divorced him, I was like, I need to find like my queer community again. I need to like make some friends and get back out there because I was so isolated in the relationship. So there's this organization called Moves that I don't think they're working anymore, but there is like moving women. I don't remember what it's called, but it's called Moves. And they did a workshop about sexual healing. So I was like, oh, I'll go to sexual healing workshop. That's fun. We were like chatting about all our sex experience and like making collage, and that was fun. And then the newsletter after that, I saw, like become a king, or I don't remember what it was. It was like explore your masculinity, and then it reminded me when I was in middle school, when I was very, very new in my queer identity, and I at Red Room. I don't know if you've been to Red Room.
Yeah.
I met somebody, and he just sat down next to me. So do you have a boyfriend? And I'm like, no. And he said, so do you have a girlfriend? And I was like, whoa, yes. and then so he was very happy to like find a baby gay. And
oh, a baby gay, is that what they call it? Cute.
I'm just like throwing like
right.
like our way of talking at you. But so like, okay, there's a show called Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Do you want to go see it? People go and dress up in drag and go see the show and stuff. And I was like, okay. But my mom was like, you are a child. I'm gonna go with you. I'm not gonna let these like older like I don't know what they're on about. I'm gonna go with you. We went to see the show, and it was a great show about a I can't really remember, like a trans woman who was also a drag queen, so something like that. But there was part of the show where there was a drag king character, and when I saw the drag king character, there was just like this awakening in me. That was like, I have never seen anything like that. That is so cool. Like, I don't know. It just really like stuck with me.
Identified. I mean, you felt. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I identified, but also I desired. It was a lot. And so when I saw that, like, oh, become a king workshop, but that was the memory that came back to me, and I was like, yes, that's what I want to, like it'd be fun to explore, and either way, I'm gonna be around other queer people, and that's gonna be great. And so I went to the workshop. They taught me like how to do makeup. I did some really horrible bad makeup, took some pictures. And that was also when I tried on a binder for the first time.
Oh.
Yeah, where that like flattens your chest.
Oh, okay.
And I had always wanted to try it, but I was always like too shy to like go to a store or something. So I was like, this is really cool. And yeah.
That's how it started.
And then the organizer at the time was like, I'm gonna like, do you want to perform? We have a show coming up. I'm like, already? This is my first workshop.
Wow.
But I was like, yeah, okay.
Oh, wow.
I ended up doing like 3 shows the next month.
Oh, gosh, you just jumped in and, but how did you know what to do? You just went with the music, or I mean, how?
Well, at the workshop also, some of the kings showed us, like,
Okay.
they would play a song and then do like a lip syncing, which means you mouth the words without singing out loud, and like do like a dance, and also like connecting with the audience. I feel like it's like the most concentrated form of what we seek in like pop stardom, except it's accessible to anyone, because it's like singing, dancing, and looking at you in the eyes. I think like so as the audience, like that's like, I once had my drag friend in New York, Cunning Stunt, said like, what's so amazing about drag is that like it gives me this sense that I'm friends with the most famous pop stars on earth, even though they're not, but then because on stage they personify that. Like superstardom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can, but then it gives you a feeling of like being close to that and being a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I have to say, when because I've gone to a couple of your shows now, and I feel like you mentioned the connection and looking at people in the eye. I feel that when you do it, that you're able to connect, or I feel that there's a connection. So I think that makes a difference in terms of when people are performing certain ones that don't necessarily do it as well and make as much of an impact. But I think definitely that connection that you can get with people is really, really cool.
One way that I think about it is that drag is a form of performance where the fourth wall does not exist.
Oh, yes, that's true. Which brings to the fact that, when I was meeting you before, it was you were an actress, or you were doing acting as in a regular performance type of thing. And
was that The Circle, or was that TV Shorts?
No, there was a couple of shows that we were in. I was doing a PA. It was with Aurelian Jojo, and you were starring in the thing with Jessica.
Okay, yeah.
Right, that one. Yeah, and I was just helping out with that one. But then there was another one that we did where you were playing like a statue. You were kind of painted as a statue. Wow. And they went up to the States or something, and I was one of your aunts or something. But I always
remember this.
Yeah. Yes. It was, I always thought, because that's regular performing, but I always thought that your acting ability was really, really natural. So how do you view that acting to, you know, performing in drag in terms of, performance or relating or anything? Is there a difference, you think?
I think there's some a similarity in a way is that I think drag is also usually kind of a character. And obviously in acting we're acting a character. But in drag, the character and who I am is like interlinked because it's something that is birthed from my own soul. Whereas like when I'm doing acting in somebody else's script, I'm like, okay, let me step into this character.
Yeah.
But with drag, there's so much creative control. Down to like you can have a whole idea of what you're gonna do, but end up doing something totally different when you're on stage.
Yeah.
So like that's like down to the second of creative.
Yeah,
like,
sort of improv
control.
kind of thing. Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, okay, well the show, the theme is this, and sometimes they just give you a theme. And then it kind of like has like a chemical reaction within me and connecting with maybe the experiences I've been having recently. Like when I was first starting out, I felt like I was reflecting on longer periods of my life, like for years and years, and I was like taking that experience and bringing it into my performance. But as I did more performances, I feel like I had digested a lot of that, and so it became more of like a diary feeling, whereas like this is kind of maybe just like how I've been feeling recently. But it like just so like knowing the theme, it kind of, and then thinking about the song I want to do, and then like thinking about maybe what kind of look I want to go for, it kind of intentionally or unintentionally brings out maybe shadow sides of myself, or it just gives me an outlet to sort of bare my soul to the audience, but then wearing a mask. So
there's like a little protection, but not really.
But then also it's like having a persona or a character to play sometimes I think helps us to express more than our original form.
Right, because being a character, well, are you talking about drag or are you talking about
drag?
Yeah, because whatever it is, a character, whether in acting or something, it's kind of a little set apart from you, and maybe that's kind of like a little barrier, boundary, safety thingy.
Yeah, I think that's true also, but it's also like I think we have so many different parts of ourselves, and maybe sometimes they're in conflict, sometimes one side is suppressed, one side is like talking to people, and so it's like being able to personify a certain part of myself.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because you know, when you're talking about earlier, I mean when you're drag, do you necessarily have to be queer, or?
Oh no, we had she's back in like the U.S. now, but a straight girl.
Okay.
Who also did drag with us. She was a great performer, yeah.
So that was just a fun thing to just let out and perform.
Well, for all of us, it's a fun thing.
So because then I'm, you know, sorry, old Asian lady, but I kind of get a little bit confused in terms of the terms, because there's LGBT,
Yes, LGBT. Yeah.
And then lately there was added Q, which you said queer. So I'm kind of a little bit confused how, I thought that queer might be because somebody's gay, but it seems probably within the group or the community, it's not, or there's a lot of differences in that. Is there?
The question is, what does it mean when I say queer, or?
Yeah, I mean, so if you're LGBT, and then you're adding the Q on the end of it, that means the Q doesn't belong to the LGBT. Because otherwise, why would they add that as a separate letter?
That's a great question. I think most people now would think queer is an umbrella term. And so it encompasses all of these identities.
Oh, all of that. Okay.
Right. Or it could.
Okay.
But then for a lot of people, their identity is not so clearly defined. So queer as an umbrella term feels more comfortable.
Oh.
Right. Or you could have like multiple identities, like say I'm pansexual and non-binary. And so I was just sometimes like that detail doesn't really matter. So I'll just say I'm queer.
Okay,
Yeah.
because it seems like there's so many terms that a lot of people like my age, it's hard to keep up with. Because you just mentioned to pansexual, and actually on your IG account,
If you look.
I know. Hey, I have to find out what I'm talking about here. Especially this old Asian lady needs to know some stuff. But yeah. What is it? Is pansexual? Because you just mentioned yourself.
Polyamorous.
Polyamorous. Okay, so what is that? I mean, I don't understand.
Well, I think so. Just as a preface, like when it comes to like sexual identities, gender identities, pronouns, and things, I read somebody who once said that I thought was really beautiful. It's like learning the name of flowers. It's like everybody is their own unique flower, and you're learning like what kind of flower is this? What kind of environment does it thrive in, and then things like that. And I think that's really cute.
It is.
But so for me, like being pansexual just means that I think in terms of like who I'm attracted to is not very, it's just all over the place.
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of people, some people I think maybe have like certain type that they like. I think even within certain genders, I have different types that I like, and it's just I feel like
You just go with the flow.
to me it's maybe not really so different from being bisexual. And I think like people can choose to either identify as bisexual or pansexual for whatever their own reasons because there's a lot of overlap. But for me, I think I just enjoy the kind of openness.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind
and
of a
kind of lack of definition.
lack of definition or freedom. You don't have to be put in a box
Right.
of anything.
Yeah.
So did you ever like did you have to come out, or did you ever come out? It seems like you went from a regular relationship that was abusive, and maybe that pushed you in the other direction. I'm not sure, but was there ever a point that you totally said, "Hey, this is me as my identity," and everybody, I don't care, whoever
Right.
knows it.
I don't know if I have like a very clear cut coming out. But when I was in middle school, for example, I felt this like, or even younger, I felt like a fascination with gay people, queer people, and I've heard a lot of people say this is like. Well, to me, I always felt like I thought it was something I aspired to be, even though that doesn't really make sense. But it was just thought that these people were so cool. It was just like a fascination with them. I wanted to know everything about it. But then I also felt like it was kind of maybe a little bit wrong and not okay, and I had to keep it a secret.
Right.
And I think this was also the stage where I was very interested in like collecting symbols like the rainbow flag or whatever that I could like hold and identify with, because I had no people to talk to in the community to live in except like online and these sort of symbols that people have created that I could hold on to. And
now you are in that community.
yeah, and so now I feel I still enjoy the symbols, but I feel less of a need to hold on to it, or labels, for example. I feel less of a need to hold on to it and be like, this is what I am, because I already feel pretty secure in who I am, and people around me have helped me like reinforce that. And yeah, I think I just slowly felt like this, I'm more comfortable with this, and then going to the pride parades and things, and I feel like I think I've kind of started to assume this is something that people should just be okay with, and it's not really something I need to come out about.
Okay, yeah.
But so the way it happened with my mom was when in college I started dating a girl, and she walked me home, and we were kissing outside of my house, and my mom came home and was like, "Hi, does your friend want to come up and have some tea or something?" And so that's how
I can imagine your mom doing that.
Yeah.
So then, in terms of the acceptance of who you are, in your family, I mean, your sister, your mom, compared to your dad, are they totally accepting, or?
My mom and my sister have been very accepting of me being like queer. I think the gender identity they always accepted as well, but it just took more time to sort of get used to and understand. Especially with the pronouns and things, and I get it. It's confusing and trips you up. But in the most they are very like, people are always like, "Wow, your mom comes to your drag shows," like, or like people
Like, we were the oldest two people there, I think, the other night.
Because my drag name is Existential Crisis.
Yeah,
and people call me Eggsy.
Yeah.
And so when my mom told me she was outside the venue, and one of the drag queens saw her, and she said, "Oh, I'm Eggsy's mom." And the queen was very funny, and she's like, "Oh, Eggsy's mom! Eggsy's mom! Wow!" And I think she always enjoys a little bit, like, oh,
Yeah.
well, but for my dad, I think when I was in college, we were out one time having lunch or something, and I told him, like, and later found out this is not true, but maybe this was my way of communicating with him as his dad. I think maybe I don't like boys. And he said, "Well, you'll like them eventually." So there was never like a really like a. I thought I was just like, "Okay, we're not gonna talk about this anymore." So it was not really ever really a conflict.
Right.
I just kind of knew the barrier to understanding was going to be too high, and kind of feel like it doesn't, because we're not that close, I feel like it doesn't affect me
Doesn't
anyway.
matter. Yeah. Because I feel like, well, in Taiwan, right, it's gay marriage is accepted here. It's legal now, right? And do you feel that in this kind of environment that Taiwan has, that I don't know if I guess it has to be more freeing, because it wasn't always this way. And I know that because I've done a couple of films. I think I did 2 short films dealing with gay, and I was a mom dealing with their kids that way. And the characters that I played, one was quite accepting and one was not. And so the environment of a lot of people, and I also did a music video, and I remember seeing all the comments under the official video about it, that, you know, people are so, and worldwide are writing in about how it's so lucky that, you know, it's being accepted here in Taiwan, that they could never talk to their parents, or they could never talk to anybody about it, depending on which country that they come from. So in one way, I guess it's really lucky that Taiwan allows this type of expression of identity, and you feel safe within this community, right?
I feel like as a world, like a whole, like Earth, we all still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
But definitely, like, I think Taiwan is doing pretty well, especially compared to a lot of other Asian countries. But there's also like a lot of things that people still maybe don't really understand, or of course there's still people who can be not so accepting. But usually maybe I'm wrong, but I think hate crimes and things are like way less common here, and just because it's so much safer anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, I know this trans woman who was living in the U.S. and just like came over here recently. I just met her once, but that how much safer and sort of accepted in general that she felt here. Yeah.
So aside from your performance art and that you do, you also started your own company. You're an entrepreneur, actually, and that's been how long now that you?
5 years.
5 years. So that means you were 21 when you about 21,
Yeah.
right? when you started that, and what made you decide to do that? Because starting your company, I don't know. Do young people nowadays feel that it's easy or it's?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So how did you go that route rather than finding a regular job and going to the?
Well, actually, a big part of it was because of the abusive ex that I had.
Okay.
We were in college together, and I think he very much wanted like a different life, something where we had more control of our own life. And we were reading Tim Ferriss's book, 4 Hour Work Week, together, and trying to come up with ideas of how to start a business so we could get out of this capitalist trap or whatever.
Right.
And I think we came up with maybe like 8 or 9 different ideas, and we tried to some of them, like nothing like started off. But
like what type of things did you?
I can't even remember.
Yeah, that's a bad memory back then, right?
I can't even remember. But so I had, I make herbal smoking blends, and the reason that I came up with this idea, it's not original to me, but the reason why I wanted to start a business like this here is, so when I was with the girlfriend before, we started dating for a while, and then in my mind I had this very like young memory of being like maybe 4 or 5 and seeing my dad smoking on the balcony and just how much it stank.
Yeah.
And I was like, I will never marry, because in my mind it was very simple back then. Like, I will never marry anyone who's a smoker.
I know what you mean. If you kiss them, it tastes terrible. So it's like, ah.
So I was dating this girl for a while, and then like a couple months in, she says like, actually I smoke. Before I met you, for some reason, I stopped for a while.
Oh.
But I've been like under a lot of stress lately, so I'm gonna start smoking again. And that was just like, cause like as we don't like, I don't know if you know this lesbian stereotype of like falling in love very, very hard and quickly. So like we were already very intertwined.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh no, like what am I gonna do? Like this is terrible. This is like shattering my world. And it really like wrenched my heart. I can't really explain why that seeing somebody else do something hurt me internally so much. And I think maybe it is from my dad, maybe it is from my childhood or whatever. She tried to smoke, couldn't quit. She tried to quit, couldn't quit. Back and forth, agony. And at one point I gave in, and I thought, I don't know, like, what is this thing that has trapped you so deeply? I can't get you out of it, so I'm going to join you and try to understand what this addiction is. So I started smoking myself, and she was not happy about it at first, but then, what can you say? And then, so that's kind of how I started smoking for a while. And then we broke up, and then I was with the abusive ex for a while, and he was a smoker, and that's also kind of how we met.
Right. Oh.
So it was all very interesting. But then, so I decided to quit. I read this book called The Easy Way, Alan Carr's Easy Way to Quit Smoking or something.
Oh, okay.
And it made sense in my head, and so I tried it and I stopped. But I realized like for that ex as well, how hard it was for him to quit, and how many people around us sort of felt this like they hold on to the cigarette as something that provides comfort. And after I quit, I think I also realized that the cigarette does serve a kind of function. It gives you like a timeout, gives you time to think. Sometimes it gives you a reason to connect with people. It does a lot of things, but the addictive quality is and the way that it stinks is what makes it not good. And so one day some friends brought over this herb called Damiana, and when like, hey, you can smoke this too. So we were smoking it, and I was like, well, if you can smoke like weed, if you can smoke tobacco, and you can smoke this thing, like what can you not smoke? And so I looked it up and realized like Native Americans have for a long time had this tradition of like pipe pipe smoking where they had used tobacco, but they also used a lot of different herbs. And that people all over have already sort of revisited this idea and commercialized it. And I thought and I realized this is something that didn't exist yet in Taiwan.
Right.
And that this could be something that could be very useful for people. Yeah.
So it's like totally, the herbs things is totally legal. It's not, anything like marijuana or anything like that.
The herbs themselves are like legal stuff.
Yeah.
It's like stuff you would find in herbal tea.
Okay. But thinking that what I would be drinking, that you can actually smoke it, kind of makes me feel weird about it. But when you smoke it, it's these herb things. Does the stuff that you put into it just taste good, or does it give you any kind of, after effect or something? It's just doesn't burn or filtered or whatever like that. I don't know.
I think like most teas kind of give a general relaxing effect after you drink it. I think it's the same with smoking it. Although like you can also, like mints, for example, might be a bit more like, I don't know what the word is, like wake you up a little bit. Or like
mint, like in the cigarettes they would use menthol or something.
Yes, but in this case it's just mint.
It's actually mint. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you create your own mixes then, and how do you do that? You get all your stuff from Taiwan, or you?
I actually import a lot of herbs from the U.S. as well, because so much of the literature and research that has been, and tradition that has been there, has been herbs that were used there.
That's interesting about the Indian, American Indians, because I'm sure,
American,
Native Americans and stuff, that they do that. I mean, because it's true, because you seem that it's true. I don't know. So after 5 years now, you've had the business. How's it going? Is it what you expected, or is it something that you continue to do? Because
so I think when I started it, what I really wanted was just something that could keep me going, that would give me support to live the life that I want. And so far that has been true for the most part. And I also had a wish that I could maybe take care of the people around me. And so my best friend, who is now also my roommate, works with me on the business and does the manufacturing side of things, and I'm able to pay them like a salary.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it hasn't really grown exponentially yet, but I also sometimes wonder if that is what I want. I don't know, but I'm still like in the process of
exploring or
building my own security.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it has been able to carry me through all these years,
right.
But I haven't really been able to save very much, I would say. I'm just starting that leg of my journey.
Right. Yeah. This is all it is, right? It's like a journey, and you've had some interesting things happen in your life because of the journey that you've been going on. Have you taken any steps in exploring other different things that might help with the, I don't know, what you're searching for, or maybe you're not searching, or understanding yourself? Because at one point you're doing tarot, right?
I think that is... I think there is like a part of me that wishes to be expressed into the world that is about like helping people love more authentically. I think because I had that bad experience in a relationship, I have seen the worst of it, but then also been able to slowly come out of that and find a more healthy and stable kind of love. And I think there are a lot of people who need that, who are either down in the dumps or who are climbing out of it and need like a friendly face and a helping hand, who's like, I've been there and it's something you can get out of. Because I think a lot of people, if you've not been there, you don't know what it's like where like an abusive experience like that can last for many, many years, if not a lifetime.
Right.
Where you're already in a better relationship, but your body still feels like you're in crisis. And being too close to somebody makes you freak out, but then having too much distance makes you freak out. It's a lot of emotional turmoil. So I think that, and like the tarot, and I feel like it's all kind of interconnected. But then I've also like wondered if that can be a part of my herbal business, because my online presence is a lot also about like, I don't even know how to describe it. Just like I share a lot of sort of recent musings about life or relationships, and just kind of like sharing as I learn.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I swear. I mean, everybody, including me, has gone through a lot of challenges, and our journeys have different challenges, right? My challenge may not be having the abusive, situation, but it could be another thing. And I just wonder if I didn't want to go too far into the abusive thing, but how did you finally decide to get yourself out? Because so many times people don't get out and they just stay there forever.
I saw a recent funny video of people. Somebody said like, me when I'm 25 and my cerebral frontal cortex suddenly develops. A lot of people were describing and saying like, oh, I got into a relationship when I was 19, and then one day when I was 25, I was like, what the fuck? And then, so I'm very lucky that I actually got out when I was 23, before my frontal cortex.
Before you get that 25.
But so how I decided to come out was
because when you're 23, you're still not really that knowledgeable or mature. But yeah, the fact that you did come out.
Yeah. So what happened at the time? He moved us further and further away from civilization. So we were living in the mountains in Jiayi, and I just felt so lethargic every day. And I was just on my phone every day. I tried to minimize contact with him, I think like subconsciously. And so I would just watch a lot of YouTube videos every day. And I came across this spiritual teacher called Teal Swan. And she was talking a lot about relationships and about like self-love and things. And I decided to take the jump and buy her self-love course. And the first lesson where it taught was because she says like people have this very like wishy-washy idea of what self-love is like a bubble bath or whatever, but it's not. Sometimes self-love is making a really hard decision for yourself.
Yeah.
And in the first lesson she talked about like looking at the most self-hating part of ourselves, and sort of understanding, because that is like the biggest obstacle to our own self-love, is the part of us that hates ourselves. And through that whole process I learned a lot about my emotions and about validating my own emotions as a way of like self-soothing. So it's like, if I'm feeling really sad or something, I would tell myself, okay, it's okay. It's understandable that I feel sad. Like this and this happened. Of course I feel sad. So it's like sort of releasing the resistance to my own emotions. And there was one specific video she made about the throat chakra, and she gave these journal prompts. And I still have the journals from that time. But one of the questions was like, I tell everyone da-da-da, but actually da-da-da.
Yeah.
And so I wrote, I tell everybody that I'm happy in my relationship, but actually I feel really lonely. I was like, wow, actually I feel really lonely. I'd never thought about that. And sort of at this point, things started to unravel a little bit. Like, how can I feel so lonely in this relationship? And one day, so like per usual, he was picking on me about something around the house and yelling at me from across the room. And I felt myself like freezing up because this is also like a big problem we had. If like he was yelling, I was freezing up. He would get upset that I'm freezing up, and I don't know what he would
escalate.
do.
Yeah,
At that point. So I was like, okay, I'm freezing up. I'm really scared. And so I said, like, hey, I'm feeling really scared right now. Can you just tell me that you can see that I'm feeling scared? Just say, okay, I see that you're feeling scared. And he said, like, I don't know why we're talking about your emotions right now. This is not about your like this is not about your feelings. Like you didn't clean this thing, whatever. And I was like, wow, like what Teal taught me about like that my feelings are like important. So it's I've never brought it up like this, but now that I've brought it up, it made me realize for the past 4 years, my feelings were never important in this relationship. I just never saw it that way. So I was like, I'm gonna back away slowly from this because it's like I realize I'm talking to someone I couldn't get through to.
Yeah.
So there's no point in trying to get through. And
so getting out. So yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, because I was thinking about how I actually got out, and it was like, cool. The relationship sexually was also very pushy, and I sort of if I said no, it was always like well, why not? Well, if not now, then when? Well, if you don't want it, what would make you want it? I was like, this is just too many. This is too many questions. I don't know. Okay, who the hell's gonna know? So basically, the idea was, I'm gonna turn your no into a yes.
Right.
And there would become a big fight about it, until like I felt so horrible, and then the final relief of things being okay again, and then I would give myself to him because finally things are okay again.
Yeah.
And this happened so many times where like. And so I had started learning from the self-love course how to talk to certain parts of myself. And so one day the same dynamic was happening, and then I said, like, I don't know why I don't want to have sex with you, okay? Why don't you talk to the part of me that doesn't want to have sex with you?
Oh no, don't tell me what he said.
So I did this kind of like channeling of my own part, and in my own self, like this is not about him anymore. I realized like, oh, I have like maybe have some like deeper trauma around this that I didn't know about, that I was starting to uncover at that time. And then I kind of had this like click and realization that we're incompatible. And if I remove the blame from it, it's that we're incompatible because I need somebody who's always okay when I say no. Just instantly, that's fine.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, he needs somebody who will always say yes.
Yeah.
That's his insecurity, that's his whatever, like not gonna put a value judgment on that. That's what he needs. We're incompatible in that way. And if I stay with him, this will never be resolved, and I will never sort of uncover the sort of deeper pain that I have around this. And he was saying stuff like, oh, blah, 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 what about how I feel, blah, blah, blah. I was like already tuning out. And then so I just like, okay, I'm gonna stop. And I came out of this part because like so many times we have had like horrible fights. And in my gut, I always still felt like I wanted to be with this person. And that day, in my gut, I felt like, I need to go.
Yeah.
And so I said, I think I need a break. And surprisingly, he took it surprisingly well. I don't know if it was like a strategy that like if he lets me go, then maybe I'll come back, or I don't really know.
Maybe feel guilty or
I was
whatever.
just grateful that he was not like putting up a big fight about it.
Yeah.
And we were way out in the mountains somewhere, so I mailed my stuff back to my mom's place and took a 1 hour bus to a 2 hour bus to a 4 hour bus.
You were that far?
I was that far.
Was it in Taichung or a different?
It was in Jiayi Dabu.
Oh yeah, Jiayi.
Yeah, next to the water reserve.
Oh,
It
okay.
was pretty crazy.
So what did it feel like then when you got on that bus and you were just, what was the
I
feeling?
feel like there was still so much lack of clarity, and I didn't know if this relationship might be able to continue or not. I would think I was still trying to figure out what the problem was. And it's actually like sort of his later behavior and what I read about like narcissistic personalities and stuff that really sort of opened my eyes. A lot of like when I sort of stopped engaging with the way that he tries to instigate conflict, I don't engage with it. He flares up on his own and then dies back down on his own. And I was like, wow, I never like I could see like the pattern that I had been engaging in for years and years, but then I was stepping away from it. But I think what also really opened my eyes was we had a video call like a week or two after I went back to my mom's, and he was still living at that place, and he was, I think, putting up a front about like being like very cheerful and happy to talk to me, and saying like, oh look, I did this and this, I've been improving in such and such a way, I've done this and this, and I was like, okay, great. And I was like, wonder if he'll ask about me. And we had the whole video call and he never asked about me.
Oh.
And that was like a quiet realization.
Yeah.
Like this relationship to him is not about me.
Right.
It's about him.
Yeah, because I was remembering when you said you had an argument and stuff, and he was telling you, you know, why are you talking about your feelings or your emotions? But then just now you were telling me that he's like, what about what I feel, or what about what? It's like a total, you know, double standard sort of thing. Yeah. Okay. So, do you feel that you've through this new life and new community that you've found that you're good with it, or that's in the past and it's something that you learned from, and or is it still have, you know, certain effects on you every once in a while?
I think I'm in a lot better of a place about it. It's not something that I ruminate so much about anymore. Barely. Once in a while, I'm like, a little bit. Or sometimes things can happen in the relationships that I have now. That actually happened. Like it took like quite a few. It's like I don't know, like a ripple, and like and the ripple continued even after I left him, and I had to take a few ripples before it rippled out and like calmed down.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I say I would forgive him. I feel like it's
a process.
I heard somebody once say that like you forgive somebody when it feels like there's really nothing to forgive anymore, where like it doesn't really affect you anymore.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm still not quite there yet. And I'm sort of, one of the first things I learned is also it's okay. Like forgiveness is not.
It's not like what somebody tells us we should do. Oh, you know, it's best to forgive this and that. And, you know, sometimes in our mind, we're saying because of what everybody else says, okay, you know, I forgive you because it's going to be better for me. But that's not always, you know, the situation.
I think it's something that like, it's like when a wound heals.
Yeah.
It's a natural process. Yeah. And if it's healed, it's healed. If it's not, it's not.
Yeah, so you do it whenever is your time, and if it isn't ever your time, then that's okay too.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah.
I think I need him to know that how much he has hurt me, and that what he did was really not okay. And so yeah. But I think for my own life, I have grown a lot from it, from the bad example of it, and sort of also it has helped me recognize the good in people too, when people do treat me in a fair, warm, loving way. It helps me recognize that and appreciate that more. For a while I felt like my standards were so low, because like if anybody strived to be healthy in their communication, I'm like, wow. I'm so spoiled.
You know, one of the things that I really, it kind of hit me because I was looking at your Facebook, and I'm not on social media too much. So every once in a while, I just catch up to see what somebody is doing or something like that, or what they've posted or something. But one of the things that you wrote, I thought, oh, maybe it was your Facebook or it was your Instagram, and it had the logo of the Veritas on it. And what you said was, and it really, really made an impact on me. And you said, when people come together and speak their truth, there is electric life in the air. And so I feel like that kind of embodies everything that you're going through and what you are now, because the truth is that you are who you are and you're living the life that you're living, right? And you have, if people around you accept that that's your truth and accept that you are who you are, that everything is, you know, I don't know, everything is just, yeah, it's like, anyway, I just felt that really hit with me, because sometimes we, for example, we were just talking a little bit about spirituality thing. Not everybody that you can talk to talks about that, because spirituality, I feel like, is not religion. And so when you talk about certain things, that other people that can relate and understand what you say is your truth, but maybe it's not their truth, you know, and accepting it, there's just some kind of a acceptance or some kind of an energy change or some kind of, maybe this is a little bit foo-foo out there, but yeah, I just really loved.
Did I write that in English?
Yeah, you wrote it in English.
I think this must have been when I was in college, because I think it was one of the school mottos or something.
Oh, really?
Like, and I was like inspired by it, and
right.
especially with what we were doing at the time with the activism and things.
Yeah, because I looked up Veritas because I wasn't sure exactly what that was.
It means truth.
It means truth, and it was like back to Roman times, which they were expecting truth from the people that were in government or things like that. And it should. I wish that would happen, you know, now in all the messed up stuff that's going around worldwide. But yeah, that was really cool. And your activism. What activism? You just mentioned activism. Mm-hmm. What were you activizing about at the time? Because you were in college,
yes.
You said?
Yeah. So when I was in university, I think I learned by chance that like the girls' dormitory had a curfew, like I think it was 12 a.m. Mm-hmm. And if you arrived after the curfew, you would get a mark. And then if you got 3 marks, I think you like you couldn't, the next semester you wouldn't be able to get a dorm, basically. Mm-hmm. And this is a problem for a lot of people, because people, the dorms are a lot cheaper, and so it can be a big financial burden if they have to live in the dorms outside of the school.
Right.
And the boys' dorm did not have this rule at all. They could come home. They could come back to the dorm whenever. And I was like, this is like not right.
Not right. Double standard again.
This is like obviously not right? And so I was talking to classmates about it, and one classmate pointed me to this student council president at the time. Mm-hmm. And I think she had been fighting for this issue for many years, but never kind of got anywhere with it. The school is very, very hard on it. And I think when I brought it up to her, she felt a sort of new sense of purpose again, and felt like she could bring people together, and because this was going to be her last year in school, and she could go out with a bang, basically. Mm-hmm. And so I supported her, and we brought people together. We did social media stuff, and finally she decided she wanted to go on a hunger strike, and that she was willing to go to those lengths.
Wow. Yeah, I think I remember reading something about it in the paper.
Yeah.
But
and to add pressure on, we kind of so she would go on hunger strike the first day, and then we would have a second student go on strike the second day. Oh. So to add pressure more and more that these people would continue, like
right.
There would be more and more people going hungry if you don't change this rule, basically. And we got a lot of media attention. Finally, I don't really know what the because we did this right before a big school meeting, because we wanted to put pressure on it and potentially for them to vote on this issue at the meeting. And one of the, I don't know, because it's a Catholic school, I think it was one of the priests. A lot of the school admin are some of them are priests. And so the priest was coming to our hunger strike location and talking to us, and we got this stuff on like live stream video of him, like what stuff he was saying. I don't really remember what it was, but I think he said some things that he didn't want public.
Okay.
But it was already out there, and he made this threat to us, like, you're like, this is like my right, you can't like be like putting my video on public, I'm gonna sue you or whatever. And some of us were scared and like, oh, should we take it down? And the student president was like, no, this means he feels insecure about something he said. Right. And it's completely legal to be filming people in public. Like, you're out in public, like. And so she stood her ground, and we kept the video. And I think maybe that might have been one of the reasons, because when the school meeting came about and there was actually a vote, it's almost like they wanted to get it over with.
Yeah, because it's a face issue too. You know, they don't want to be.
We made them lose face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so they voted it. It passed. No more curfew.
Well, how many days did they actually do the hunger strike?
4.
4.
But she was quite weak at the end.
Yeah, that's quite a long time.
Yeah.
And definitely. Wow. So is that the only activism specifically that you did?
No, but if I get into the other stuff,
no,
going on too long.
Okay, so we'll stop here then, and just want to really thank you for speaking your truth and sharing with other people out there maybe that might be going through the same situation as you. Not even what you're going through, but a lot of parents maybe that are my age that have things like this that they have to deal with their children's identity. And I really appreciate you being open to share that with us.
Thank you for giving me a place where I can be open.
All right. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.